Hello and welcome to our Ovarian Cancer and the Role of Self-Compassion event. We are so pleased that you could join us today. I'm Grace Thorner, the Events and Digital Communities Officer here at Target Ovarian Cancer. We also have the other members of the supportive services team at Target with us too. Soraya and Kirsten, please give us a wave. You might not be able to see everyone on your screen, but please rest assured that we are here. So to start, we are really excited about today's event. Aneesh will lead on a presentation full of information and activities that will shed a light on how to practice self-compassion. We have set aside time at the end of the session for questions and answers, and I will go into more detail about the best ways to interact throughout the session in a second. Aneesh will answer questions that come up during the session, but it may be that not all questions can be answered during this time. So just bear that in mind. And although we will try and keep questions and answers broad so that they are relevant to more attendees, some attendees may choose to ask questions relating to their own experiences. We would like to agree that anything that is shared during the webinar stays in the session. Please do not share details of other people's experiences outside of the session. And if you are a friend or relative of a person with ovarian cancer, please ensure you have their consent to speak about their experiences before joining in any discussions. That's all from me, so I will hand over to Aneesh. I hope you all enjoy the session.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Aneesh, and I'm a psychologist based at the Maggie's Centre in Cambridge. I have been working with here at Maggie's in Cambridge for about 7 years now, and have been working with people with ovarian cancer and their families. It's a real privilege to do this talk, having heard such good things about target ovarian cancer from the people I've worked with. So yeah, so what I'm going to talk about today is ovarian cancer and the role of self-compassion. I will try and keep an eye on the chat function and things like that. If I do miss people, I do apologize, but hopefully at the end we can catch up. Yep, I will begin now. What I hope to talk about first is, there is quite a strong evidence base for self-compassion when either ourselves or a loved one have been diagnosed with cancer and ovarian cancer. And I hope to be able to talk to you just about why that is, and what we find helpful as psychologists to talk about that in terms of the different functions of the brain and the emotional systems, and the importance of self-compassion. And also what I hope to do is give you some practical ideas of how to be, about how to utilize self-compassion. And I'll be going through a couple of ways of doing that, as well as how to respond to yourself and others in a compassionate way. Self-compassion is relevant if you've been diagnosed and treated for ovarian cancer, but also if it's a friend or a loved one. This is all still very relevant to you as well. Yeah, I'll begin. So I think the key system to talk about is the red circle, so the threat system. So all of us as humans, we have this part of the brain called the amygdala. So we have two of these almond-like structures near the base of the brain. In an extreme example, I'm here at Maggie's Cambridge. If there's a window there, if somebody started hammering on that window, banging on it with a baseball bat or something, my amygdala will send a signal to my adrenal glands above my kidneys, and it will want me to act. So it will either want me to run away, fight, or just stay still and hide, for example. It wants me to act first and think later. But what we know, the research shows that when we or our loved ones have been diagnosed with cancer, our threat systems take over. It wants us to act first and think later. It's what we call autopilot. And the way it does that is it shuts down what we call the medial prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain which makes us who we are. It makes us human, where we plan for the future, where we feel close to others, where we're able to feel connected, problem solve. And the threat system is also, some people call it the lizard brain or the old brain or the primitive brain, because it's a very it's a primitive part of the brain which is there to try and protect us. And it has a very strong we have to pay attention to it. So when things aren't going well in our life, we've all experienced that, maybe our breathing rate increasing, that sickly feeling, or that sense of a physical sense of dread sometimes. That's what our brains are designed to do. That's nobody's fault. That is our threat system. It's also can be a very strong reaction, and it's designed for us to think negatively, worst case scenario, because we're more likely to act if we feel this feeling, which is unpleasant, and it's designed to be unpleasant, and we act on it quickly. And if we think, oh, something bad's going to happen, going back in time, our ancestors that survived were the ones that often thought, oh, that rustling in the bushes could be a predator or an enemy tribe, or but what we know is when we are diagnosed with cancer, with ovarian cancer, or if a loved one is, this system takes over, and it's a very powerful system, and it's not your fault. It is your brain trying to respond in a way to a threat. The key thing with the threat system, it's not rational. It's not part of who we are, and it's bombarding us with very negative thoughts, images, and feelings, and that's what it's designed to do. It is based in what we call the sympathetic nervous system. So we have two. We part of the autonomic nervous system. So part of our nervous system, there's different branches. One of those branches is the autonomic nervous system. So there's two branches to that. Autonomic nervous system means basically everything we do automatically. So our digestion rate, breathing rate, heart rate, all the things we don't really think about. And it's two parts, sympathetic and parasympathetic. The threat system is very much the sympathetic. So if you may have noticed those times when you're feeling anxious, your breathing rate may increase, you may feel butterflies in the stomach, your muscles are tense, completely normal. It's trying to get you ready to run away from a situation or fight. And in a very basic sense, the three emotions or four are anger, anxiety, or numbness. So anger is the fight, anxiety is the flight, freeze is the numbness, and fear, all very normal when we are diagnosed or going through treatment, or a loved one is. These are completely normal human responses. Our brain is designed to do it's doing what it's designed to do. So that's the threat system, and that's key. The second system I'll very briefly talk about is a drive excitement system. So the blue screen on your the blue circle on your screen, and this is the drive excitement system. So it's based in part of the brain called the nucleus accumbens. So when we achieve a goal, or when we buy ourselves something nice, or when we do exercise, it can give us that buzz. We get a promotion at work, or we or anything like that, and we secrete something called dopamine, which gives us that buzz. What can happen when we're experiencing powerful feelings from the threat system? A good distraction is the drive excitement system. So that's where addictions can come into play. So I'm not saying anyone has this, but we all occasionally, I know I do, when we're feeling a bit stressed, you can end up, my go-to is going on my phone or my autopilot or browsing, looking for things that I may want to buy, because it's a distraction. It's a very human reaction. However, distraction is short term. Those feelings, those difficult feelings or thoughts will always come back, and we can yo-yo between the threat system and the drive excitement system. And this brings us to the soothing and contentment system, which is key. And what the research is showing us when we're going through a cancer diagnosis and treatment or a loved one is, this is one of a more sustainable way of managing our emotional distress. The soothing and contentment system is based in the medial prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that makes us human. When, for example, I'm just trying to think of an example. So say you've been on holiday, and it's a really relaxing holiday. Perhaps you're by the beach, or and your body feels heavy. You feel calmer. You're in a being mode rather than doing mode. You just feel that sense of safety, that calmness. What often may be happening is that you are secreting endorphins and oxytocin, the hormones that help us feel safe and calm. And when our soothing and contentment systems are activated, our threat systems can't be. The soothing and contentment system is the parasympathetic nervous system. The threat system is the sympathetic. They don't work together. And what the evidence base shows us, this is a much more sustainable way of regulating our emotional distress. And one of the key ways of doing this is self-compassion, not only to ourselves, but others, receiving it and giving it. What is compassion? It's a good question. It's not simply just being nice to yourself. It's a lot deeper than that, or some people associate it with being weak. That's not the case at all. And I'm hoping to dispel those rumors as I go through this talk. It is self-compassion. It takes practice, it takes courage. It's not easy to do, because when we are, part of self-compassion is having the courage to kind of allow what we're going through and allowing some difficult feelings. And as humans, we are very averse to pain. We don't like, we're designed, something's horrible is going on, or we feel pain, it's to push it away, to sort it out, to fix it. And in a lot of things in life, we can do that. So, for example, if you're working, or if there's a problem, I don't know, you've got a problem at work, or your boiler breaks down, your threat system's activated. What do I do? You initiate a plan of sorting it, your threat system goes down, and then you can use your prefrontal cortex and sort it all out. Doesn't always work like that with cancer, because some of this is out of our control. We are, it depends how our treatment's going, or our loved one's treatment's going, how, and there are always ups and downs. It can be that some days we're feeling okay, other times we're not feeling okay, or when we finished our treatments, that feeling of uncertainty. And these aren't problems we can just fix. So the way we describe it is the threat system in those situations can go in overdrive. If you imagine a car with the accelerator on initially, but a handbrake on, we're flooding ourselves with adrenaline initially, then cortisol. Cortisol is a corticosteroid, constantly helps us feel on edge, makes us feel on edge, affects our sleep. We're more likely to think negatively, feel more disconnected. And so why self-compassion is a very useful tool is that it's about responding differently. We're not trying to fix anything. We're not trying to push anything away. we're responding to difficulties in life with kindness and allowing it to some point, which isn't easy. So that's the three circle model, which I hope to go through more detail. One of the ways of activating the soothing contentment system is mindfulness. Mindfulness, all it is a present moment awareness of the here and now. So going back to that example of when the threat system active, as humans, what we do is like to push things away, or if we're having difficult thoughts or feelings, either try and fix them, and if we can't, just trying to push them away, or having this battle that I should be doing better, or I should be feeling I should be feeling differently. What with mindfulness and self-compassion, there's a close link. So going back to what I was saying before, our threat systems can be flooding us with thoughts or feelings that are often very negative. That's not our fault. Our brain is trying to protect us, but sometimes we can't always do a lot with those thoughts. I should be doing better. I should be thinking more positively. Often those thoughts of the word should are very come from the threat system, or why me? Why did I have to go through this? Why am I? Or what's going to happen in the future, and all these kind of things and they can have a very strong physical reaction. As humans, what we want to do is push those away, or fix them, and if we can't fix them, distract ourselves. That's not always feasible, and what can happen is there's a vicious cycle. So our thoughts and feelings and avoidance behaviors just go round and round and get stronger and stronger. That's not our fault. But what we are doing is just paying attention, and we're not feeding that. So what I mean with mindfulness and self-compassion, I'm going to show you now. And if you like, you can have a go at doing this with me. I'm going to start with some mindful breathing and doing something called safe place imagery. So these exercises have an evidence base for activating the soothing and contentment system. We're focusing on the physical, and then we're using our imagination to activate the soothing contentment system. And this is a strategy for inviting self-compassion. So we're not with self-compassion, we're not distracting ourselves at all. We are being aware of what's going on for us, but we're holding it with kindness. And when we do that, what I'm hoping is that through practice, the soothing contentment system is like a muscle. The more we practice, the more able we are to utilize it and secrete oxytocin and endorphins, the hormones that help us feel safe and calm. So I'm just going to try this with you now. So what I want you to do is just get in a comfortable position. And if you feel comfortable doing, so I just want you to just gently close your eyes. And just bringing your awareness to the level of physical sensations by focusing your awareness on the sensations of touch and pressure, where your feet make contact with the floor or whatever you're resting on, and the body makes contact with the chair or the sofa or the bed, whatever you're resting on, just spending a few moments exploring these sensations. And now focusing your awareness on the changing patterns of physical sensations as the breath moves in and out of the body. Just noticing where you can feel the breath in the body. It may be the nose or the mouth, the throat, or the chest, or the lower abdomen, or a combination of areas. It really doesn't matter. Just following the breath all the way in as it enters your body in an in-breath, and all the way out as it leaves your body in the out-breath. Just noticing the slight pauses between one in-breath and the following out-breath, and between one out-breath and the following in-breath. There is no need to try to control your breathing in any way. Just simply let the breath breathe itself as best you can. Also bring this attitude of allowing to the rest of your experience. There is nothing to be fixed, no particular state to be achieved. Best you can, simply allow your experience to be your experience, whatever that may be. Sooner or later, usually sooner, your mind will wander away from the focus on the breath and the body to thinking, planning, daydreaming, drifting along, whatever. This is perfectly okay. It's simply what minds do. It's not a mistake or a failure. You notice that your awareness is no longer the breath. Just gently acknowledge where it's wandered to. Then really gently bring your awareness back to the changing physical sensations of the in-breath or the out-breath, whichever you find. As best you can, just bring a quality of kindness to awareness. Perhaps in repeated wanderings of the mind, as opportunities bring patience and gentle curiosity to experience. And now what we're going to do is going to turn our attentions to our imaginations. I just want you to start to develop an impression of a safe place. And what we're going to do is just going to work through the senses. So starting with what you can see. For example, what colors are around you? So I'm just starting to imagine any details that you can add to a safe place. So just imagining the colors. Are they dark or light? If you're outside, where are you? For example, if you're on a beach, what kind of beach? Is it sandy or pebbly? Or are you in a garden in the country? Are there trees or other plants around you? What does the sky look like above you? Now moving on to your sense of touch. Are you in the safe place? Can you see yourself? Or are you just looking out at everything? What are you doing? What can you feel? Are you walking? So what are you walking on? Are you lying or sitting down? Now think of any other sensations, such as a gentle cooling breeze or the warmth of the sun on your face. What can you hear? Is there the sound of water? Perhaps the ocean lapping, or a stream babbling, or a waterfall. Or maybe you can hear birdsong. Remember that quite naturally, your wandering mind will take you away from this place after just a few seconds. So just notice when it goes, then gently return your attention to the element of your safe place image you find most appealing. There's no right or wrong about your safe place. It's just a place where you feel safe. You can keep practicing this and finding an image that really works for you. Your mind will wander. Just being aware of your breath. Just being aware of the image. Now, just allowing that image to gently fade. Being aware of the physical sensations of your feet and your body, those sensations of touch and pressure where they're resting. Being aware of the sounds of my voice. And then whenever you feel ready, and only when you feel ready, just opening your eyes. Okay, so I can see if you tried that, great. If not, that's fine too. It's an example of activated soothing contentment system. We're not trying to change anything there. When we're not, we are just using. Well, we're actually focusing on the breath, starting. We're just being kind to ourselves, noticing our breath, not trying to change it, allowing whatever's going on, and then using our imagination to help us feel just that little bit calmer. What we know is exercises like this, activated soothing contentment system. These exercises aren't for everybody. So, well done for giving it a try. So the next, so that's an example of activating soothing contentment system. When we do any of these exercises, we are moving away from autopilot. The video that I was going to show you is very simply, what happens is our threat systems become active. We then go in autopilot. So I don't know if for those of you that drive, if you've ever gone on a journey, you can't even remember it. What happens is we're just on autopilot. We're not in the here and now. But that autopilot can take us to this place in the future, or thinking worst case scenario. We confuse with some very difficult thoughts or emotions where we're trying to, it's what we call rumination. They're going round and round. Another thing we can do is when our threat system is activated, we can't stop it. We're all human. It's going to happen when we are going through cancer treatment, or a loved one is, or post-treatment, or whatever your treatment stage is. And then we move. What we're doing is we're actually making the decision to actually, no, actually, I'm going to respond differently. I'm going to respond compassionately to myself or to my and others. And that can be just focusing on your breath gently, mindfully, being aware of those difficult thoughts and feelings, but not doing anything, like we just did it with the mindfulness, and then compassionate responding through safe place imagery. Another way of doing it is something here with responding compassionately to thoughts. It's not as clear as I was hoping. That's my fault. When I tried this before, it seemed a little bit clearer. But what I can do is I can send this to Grace and Soraya, and so you can have a copy of this. But basically, what it is that what it's what we call a compassionate thought challenging record. And quite simply, when we are noticing those feelings of anxiety or self-criticism or anger, what we can do is just write down the situation, acknowledging how we're feeling the emotions. So, for example, you were getting really angry that I don't know, post chemotherapy, you wanted to do something, you simply couldn't. You're having the thought, the situation was I wanted to go for a walk, but I was just felt too tired and overwhelmed. The emotions were 80% anger towards myself. The automatic thoughts were, I should be doing better than this. Why? Other people have chemotherapy and they're okay. Why is it me? And then we think about a more compassionate response. What I see a lot here at Maggie's is that people are often a lot more compassionate to other people going through a very similar situation than they are to themselves. And as humans, we are very guilty of this. We can be very we can say all the right things in exactly the right tone to other people, but we would but to ourselves, we can be a lot more harsh, and we would never dream of saying those things to somebody else. So part of a compassionate response is just imagining what a best friend would say to you, what somebody who you trust and care, or what would you say to somebody else in a similar situation that's not yourself, or somebody you cared about. And often it's a much more compassionate response, or responding with wisdom and kindness. And when you're doing this, you're activating your soothing contentment system. You're using your prefrontal cortex. You're moving away from autopilot and actually looking at a more compassionate way of responding. It's not easy, but actually just by reflecting, noticing how these situations where you're self-critical, or indeed if somebody's critical for you, that the one we hear a lot here at Maggie's is when people are struggling, and a friend or somebody, a work colleague, will just say, oh, just think positively, you'll be all right. And actually that's not always helpful. And self-compassion is not about thinking positively. It's just being aware of how you're feeling, and holding that with gentleness and kindness. The other demonstration I'd like to do is something called soften, soothe, allow. It's completely up to you whether you want to do this exercise. It's a way of noticing when you're feeling difficult physical feelings or emotions, and rather than going that autopilot, just seeing how you can gently hold it. Some people find this exercise really helpful. Other people, they start it and they think, oh, this is way too much. That's fine. You can stop at any time. But what I'll do is I'll go through it with you, and just see just seeing if how you found it. It should take about 5 or so minutes. But if you do feel, what I would say is, if you do feel a bit emotional, that's completely normal. If you want to stop at any time, that's absolutely fine. So again, if you want to just settle into a comfortable position, and if you feel comfortable doing so, just gently closing your eyes, and just bringing your awareness to the level of physical sensations, just noticing the sensations of touch and pressure, where your feet make contact with the floor and your body makes contact with the chair, just noticing those sensations. And again, just focusing your awareness on the changing physical sensations as the breath moves in and out of the body. And what I want you to do is just noticing that feeling of the breath flowing freely in and out the body. And what I want you to try and do is just quickly scan the body from the head to the toes, and just noticing if you can feel any physical sensations that feel related to your emotions. For example, if you felt a bit anxious or feeling a little bit anxious or tense, you may be able to notice how that emotional experience presents itself as a physical sensation. Some people feel anxiety or tension as a tightness in the chest or throat. If you're not noticing anything, that's fine too. But if you do, just bringing compassionate attention to this place, and just, if you can, just feel yourself softening into that space in the body. Imagine this to be similar to applying warmth to stiff or sore muscles. And just let go, physically forcing anything at all. And in your mind, if you are feeling any tension, and there's a physical sensation with that tension, what I want you to do is just repeat the word soft in your mind with the soothing rhythm of the breath. We aren't aiming to suppress or avoid any experience at all here. We are simply bringing mindful and compassionate attention to our emotional and physical experience in this very moment. Just stay with this process of softening for a few moments. So again, you can just imagine this to be similar to applying warmth to stiff or sore muscles. And the next step is what we can do is just in your mind, as you're noticing the breath, just gently repeating the word soothe in your mind. And you may also choose to imagine that experience of warmth or soothing or kindness arriving at that place in the body where you felt the emotion physically affect you. Just noticing your breathing, not trying to change anything, but just remaining with this process of soothing for a few moments. And as a final step, if you can, just consciously letting go of any need or urge to get rid of your emotional experience. As you exhale, letting go of any effort to avoid or suppress any emotion. Don't need to push any of these feelings away. You can just allow this emotion to be where it is and for it to come and go in its own time. This time, silently repeating the word allow in time with the soothing rhythm of your breath. You may even choose to repeat the word soften, soothe, allow in your mind as you follow the breath during the last moments of this exercise. Your mind may wander. At times you may find it's a bit overwhelming to stay with this experience, that's fine. Or you may find that you're drifting off and relaxing. It really doesn't matter. You're in control. Just staying with the breath for as long as you need. Just resting in the soothing rhythm. Just directing mindful and compassionate attention to your emotion. And then, when you feel ready, just letting go of the exercise, being aware of the physical sensations of touch and pressure, being aware of the sounds in your environment. Just opening your eyes whenever you feel ready. So that exercise, I do that a lot here at Maggie's with people, and I get really mixed responses. Some people find it really helpful. Other people just find it quite difficult or a bit overwhelming. It really doesn't matter. But any exercise where you're moving away from that autopilot and are just aware of, okay, this is how I'm feeling, I'm just going to sit with that for a few moments, can make a huge difference. And physiologically, research shows us that can reduce that threat system activation, increase in soothing contentment system activation. So just that process of trying that and that different way of responding can make a huge difference. Going back to how I described the choice point, because what we wanted, when our threat systems are active, often we don't feel like ourselves. We can be in this cycle of feeling very negative, very angry at ourselves, very self-critical, feeling distant. And it can mean that we don't feel like we're moving in a direction as we want to. When we are responding in a compassionate way, what we are making that choice that actually, yeah, I don't like how I'm feeling. I'm not going to push it away. I'm going to sit with it. But actually, what I want to do is be able to focus on the things which are important to me in life, So, and we say values are different to goals. A goal is the drive excitement system. You achieve it, end off, you can move on. Values are things we're constantly working on. We're not always achieving our values, but it's just a way of kind of what's important to us. What. And these are some of the questions where you can ask yourself about getting, moving towards that value direction with self-compassion. So, what are the things you enjoy? What are the things that make you angry, for example? So if it's injustice in a situation, rather than ruminating, sitting with that with self-compassion, and seeing what you want to do in life, and making that choice of living in a valued direction. So what we say with this choice point is moving away from the threat system. The things that can activate your soothing and contentment system through self-compassion, the mindfulness, the compassionate responding with your thoughts, the allowing these difficult feelings, but actually the next step is moving in a direction which is important to you, because that's part of self-compassion, where you make that choice. It's not about being nice or kind or putting yourself first. Self-compassion is not about being selfish, but at the same time it is about moving in a valued direction which is important to you. And finally, I think I'm okay for time just to read this. So this is a poem we use a lot in mindfulness. I do a lot of mindfulness teaching here at Maggie's, and it's one we use. It was by somebody called Rumi, who is a 13th century Persian Sufi poet. And it's still very relevant to today. So I'll just read out very quickly, and it's about, sometimes we are in life is about suffering, and particularly when ourselves or a loved one has gone through a cancer diagnosis and treatment, lots of difficult feelings. Our instinct can be to push them away, but the guest house is about doing it differently. So this being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if there are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been set as a guide from beyond. So what I take from that is, as humans, when we're going through difficult, we are going to experience these feelings of shame, of difficult self-criticism. Sometimes we can sort them, we can fix them. Sometimes we can't with ourselves and loved one, we can't. So being compassionate is a different way of responding, allowing them, holding them with gentleness and kindness. So I am aware of the time. I hope we've got some time for questions. That was a very whistle stop tour, I guess, of self-compassion, and I hope there are some take-home messages, and I'm happy to take any questions or from anybody.
Brilliant. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Aneesh. That was brilliant. I'm certainly feeling a lot more relaxed now. So thank you. So yeah, moving on to the questions. I guess starting with someone who wrote in and said, I feel both lucky and guilty about being diagnosed early at stage 1A. Can you help me reconcile with this? So,
yeah, I mean, I'll try. I hope it's not too reductionist to kind of go back to the to those three circles again, but that is often the threat system. What a key part of the threat system is we compare ourselves to others, but it's not easy, you know, and whatever your stage or diagnosis, and your difficult feelings are valid. Guilt often, it always originates from the threat system, and it's the fights, but often towards ourselves. So the guilt is, you know, oh, you know, other people are worse off than me. I should be doing better than this. And that is so normal, but that's our threat systems, and that's not your fault. And your emotional difficulties are valid. If you take anything from this, is that this is not your fault, and if the distress you're experiencing is valid. And also, if you think about that compassionate thought record, if there was somebody else going through a cancer diagnosis or treatment, and they were whatever stage they were, I don't think very rarely would say, oh, well, that's lucky, you know, why, you know, that person's much worse than you. Often we're much better at, you know, empathizing with others and using some of that empathy, which I'm sure we would use to others, to ourselves, is so important, and that's a soothing contentment system. No matter what your diagnosis or loved one, I mean, actually, that's a good point, because sometimes when I'm seeing carers or loved ones here, sometimes I think, well, I shouldn't really be taking your time because I'm not the one going for it. There's other people. Actually, that's still valid, you know. And again, the threat system often compares ourselves to others. Comparing yourself to others is not always that helpful. You know, there's always somebody worse off than us, no matter what. We can do that forever, but it's holding that distress with kindness. It's not our fault. It's not nice, but how can we hold this using the strategies and respond kindly?
Great. Wonderful, thank you. And kind of leading on from that, and I think you covered it in a little bit in the exercise, but in the chat, we've just had a question who said, we are so used to being in our heads and thinking our way out of trouble. How do you enable people to engage and be open with their emotional experience rather than trying to rationalize it away?
That's a really, really good question, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. The soothing contentment system, you know, you can try and rationalize it, but sometimes we can't. And some of the things that, you know, so I've done some quite formal exercises, but the threat system is very physical, but also on the other hand, being aware of that being mode rather than doing, which is a lot more sensory. So our brains work in different brain waves. So beta is the doing, so we're thinking, sorting. And there's another, delta and theta are light sleep and deep sleep, I think. And there's another one, which is alpha, which is being, where we're just aware of how it's sensory. So walking in nature, being by the beach, or when we're having cuddles with loved ones or feeling safe, these are often a lot more sensory. And when we're doing that, we're being much more open to the physical and emotional experience rather than being in our heads. And that's a really good way of activating the soothing contentment system. It's a different way of responding. As humans, we're not always, modern society, we're bombarded with kind of images, advertising, all sorts about problem solving, sorting things out, being in our heads. So it takes a lot of effort to actually activate our soothing contentment system. And one way of doing that is opening up to emotional experience For example, going for a walk and noticing the leaves swaying on the trees, that's activating your soothing contentment system, opening up to emotional experiencing, noticing where it's feeling in your body. That's opening yourself up to emotional experience. All these things are really helpful, but our autopilots will sometimes move us away from that. Completely normal. It's what we do as humans. But sometimes when we've gone through everything that you've gone through or a loved one has, you deserve that that way of a different way of responding. And that's part of self-compassion.
Brilliant, thank you.
No
So we've just got time for one more question. So someone's written in, how can I help my loved one to be more self-compassionate after an ovarian cancer diagnosis? So I guess rather than practicing it yourself, how can you encourage someone else to practice?
Really good question. It's sometimes I did a presentation here last year where it's about creating the conditions. So sometimes there's no easy fix to it. So even if you're just listening and listening to what they're experiencing and trying to sit in there, standing in their shoes, that's a really big first step, because if you are feeling understood and empathized, you're activating someone's soothing and contentment system and giving them permission to be more self-compassionate. And also sometimes a key point is compassion fatigue. So here as a psychologist working in a cancer center, I have supervision, I have all these things in place to make sure I'm feeling okay. Because if I'm not, I can't empathize or my threat system becomes active. When our threat systems are active, we can't be as compassionate and empathetic as I like. So if you're a carer, it's important to look after yourself as well, in order so you can create those conditions to just listen and be in those that person's shoes. So there is a really a 2-minute TED talk animation by somebody called Brené Brown, which is about creating the conditions for empathy and helping somebody. So what I may do is share that link with either Grace or Soraya, as well as the compassionate thought record. But that's a really nice first step to promoting self-compassion with yourself and with a loved one as well.
That would be great. Thank you, Aneesh. We can put that put both of them in an email to send out afterwards. Great. So just to round up, I think I'll ask you, if you had one thing from this session that you want people to take away, what would you say that was?
Okay. Well, I would say the phrase that how you're feeling, if you're experiencing any emotional distress, it's not your fault. And I guess this is two. And anything which you do, which helps you activate your soothing contentment system, if it's a warm bath, if it's a walk, you deserve it. And it's very important you're not being selfish, but it's really important to be kind to yourself and activate your soothing contentment system. If you take anything from it, it's not your fault, and do something nice every day. It's not being self-indulgent. It's really important.
Thank you, Aneesh. Very, very good advice there. We are now officially at the end of the webinar. So again, thank you, Aneesh, and to all of you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the session and found it helpful. Just a couple of bits from me before we go. So as I mentioned, we will follow up and send you more information about our future digital events and a feedback form. We would love to hear from you as it helps us to improve our digital events and ensure we are offering the support that everyone affected by ovarian cancer needs. As I mentioned, we are streaming into the ovarian cancer community. So this is a group that if you would like more opportunities to speak to others affected by ovarian cancer, and to experience more of our digital events together, we would recommend joining this Facebook group. It's an open and understanding Facebook community for everyone affected by ovarian cancer anywhere in the UK, and a link to join will be in the follow-up email. Please remember, if you have any further questions or concerns or would like a chat, our support line is available for you to talk to one of our nurses. So please call us on 020 7923 5475. That's everything from me. Once again, just to say thank you to Aneesh, who delivered such a great session, and to all of you for joining us and making it such a wonderful event. We hope to see you again soon and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Okay, thanks. Bye. Bye.